Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this community and the country that we live in. Lord, we ask that you would be with us during this meeting and that our decisions bring glory to you. We ask all these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. And I'll recognize Board Member Sally Hardis for the pledge.
Okay, if you'll join me in the pledge, please. Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You can be seated. Board members, you've had a chance to look over the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion, a second. Any additions, questions, discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries, and we're a little light here today, so it carries 5-0. Do we have any public comment?
We do not.
Okay. There's no public comment. We're going to move through this. We're going for a record today. Board members, you've had a chance since last week to look over the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion, questions, additions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. And now we have no honors and recognitions this meeting. So we're going to move directly to reports, and I am pleased to recognize Bryce Melton, Dean of the School of Academics, Education, and Fine Arts at CVCC. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Chairman. Thank you, board members. I'd like to take just a few minutes to thank the Board of Education, especially Alexander County Schools, on behalf of Catawba Valley Community College and on behalf of our CVCC Alexander Center as well, for their support of our cohort students from Alexander Central High School. I have to present to you tonight the 2016-17 cohort picture. We would especially like to thank Alexander High School, the staff there, Mr. Roney, Leah Wiley, and Chase Hoyle for their work in promoting the cohort and the students. Thank you very much.
Oh,
Very good.
that's the fourth.
Pink shirt there.
The other three we have.
Yeah, it just seems like.
Yeah.
Wait, on the back.
Fourth
It
time.
Oh,
Yeah.
because I was going to say that doesn't look like him. Oh, yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
That
Thank
looks
you.
like him.
Great class.
Okay, presentation. Great.
Bryce, thank you.
And now we're going to move to the Student Success Center update, and I'm pleased to recognize Angie Charles, the coordinator.
Board Chairperson Britsky and Board of Education, Dr. Hefner, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to come talk to you about something that I guess I'm pretty passionate about since we've spent a year. So the last time I talked to you, it was me upcoming and starting to do this. This time I get a chance to talk to you about what has occurred, and I'm pretty excited to tell you some of the things that we've experienced. Okay, I'm not really going to read all of this to you. I know you can do that, and you have copies of the presentation, hopefully. But this was our vision, and part of our vision is just to make the difference in the lives of students and empower them to be what they can be, and maybe restore from some mistakes that have been made. All right, and of course this is our mission, and this is just us talking about restoring and providing choice and hopefully changing the lives of as many students as we can. All right, and now this is where it kind of starts to get a little bit emotional for me. So these are our two graduates that we had for this school year. One graduate actually went back to the high school mid-year, but we still claim her because she spent so much time with us. So here's some statistics in terms of student celebrations. We had 2 students to graduate, 2 will graduate at the first semester this next upcoming school year. We have 2 students going back to the high school. 1 student, which is Sasha, enlisted in the Army. All students were promoted for this school year. That's very exciting to us as a team. 99% of the course completion and credit recovery. We had all students to complete courses, and we had 1 student who fell short of one of his courses. Increased attendance, decreased discipline incidents, especially with semester 2, and increased grades. We had, these are just some example EOC scores. We had a 79% in biology, a 74% in math 1, and a 77 in English 2. So we're very proud of some of, that's not all of them, but that's just some of the highlights that we saw. We had 6 level 5 students, and I'll just tell you really quickly, I won't explain all of that, but we have a level system, and students can get to a level 5. Once they get to a level 5, they can be looked at to enter back into the high school as a transition. And the level 5 has been few and far between for this year, but we still had some students who actually achieved that. And the student success was seen in all areas of the high school curriculum. 3 students successfully completed summer school, thanks to Mrs. Herman. She did a great job with that. And one of the students graduated during the summer school time. Actually did his senior project, graduation, etc. 5 students were employed during the school year, and all students completed the junior papers with success. So we have a lot of things going on a lot of the time. This is just the staff, and I won't go through everything, but one of the highlights, first of all, this is a great group of people. A small group of people in a small building changing lives every day is something pretty incredible to watch. So I thank them and want to highlight them.
Angie, would you introduce the 2 staff members who are with you tonight?
Sure. Ann Herman and Tricia St. Clair. Ann Herman does English language arts and whatever else is needed, and Tricia St. Clair does almost anything and everything, and especially when I run to her, we got to have this, we got to have this. So they are great staff. Okay, I can't see that board, so. All right, so anyway, the staff they're amazing people. They do a great job. Okay, and this is just kind of, I'm not going to read everything to you. This is just sort of a preface into the next part of what I'm going to talk about, and that is the OSS alternative that we served for the high school and the middle schools. And that has been a true success for the Student Success Center and for the team as a whole, because we were able to impact a lot of lives, and you're going to find out in just a few minutes. But this just gives you a little bit of data about the general statute on suspensions that came down from North Carolina, and also the suggestions that North Carolina and a study from Duke University says about suspensions and what we need to do, or maybe what we could try to do differently. The next part is just giving you a little bit of details, and I won't read that to you, but it's talking about ways that you can deal with suspensions or ways that you can deal with discipline that would be very different for all students. All right, this slide is just really, really important to me, so I'm going to stand here and talk to you just a little bit about it. The OSS alternative, like I said, was very successful. We had served 91 students from the high school and 26 students from East and West. East and West began the process a little bit later because we wanted to see how the high school would actually do and how the students would do with the process. Students are offered a safe place to attend school. They're not on the streets during the day, or they're not places that their parents do not know where they are while their parents work. They are counted present for school because it is a opportunity for more of an ISS or an in-school suspension rather than an OSS. We saved, as far as attendance days are concerned, 107 days for semester 1 from the high school and 206 days for semester 2. The middle school days were 49 from East and 12 from West. So when you look at that coupled with the MTSS that we talk about and how important the discipline piece and how important the attendance piece is for MTSS, this carries a lot of weight when we look at it. And it also carries a lot of weight for students who don't fall behind. If you miss 5 days of school, it's pretty pronounced when you're in a Math 3 course and an English course and a history course, and you're falling really far behind. We also instituted a drug course, which Dr. Griffin talked about a little bit earlier on, and that course served 24 students. And most of those were at the high school. And what happened was, if they were going to receive for a drug offense, if they were going to receive 10 days, they actually got 5 if they attended the course. So they still came even after their OSS opportunity at the SSC. They still came to SSC and did the drug course for an extended period of time. It would have been, I think, anywhere probably around 14 sessions that they did. So they really did do a lot of bonding and relationship building with our communities and schools worker. Okay, and this right here is just some happenings that has happened at SSC this year. 25 students served throughout the entire year, which means as far as on-campus students that we had housed in the building, 22 incidents involving DSS or Department of Juvenile Justice. We served several mental health intakes. All students now are EC or 504. Those needs are being met. And most students have a mental health diagnosis or a need for trauma. Okay, not really going to talk about this next one because we talked about it early on, but it's media literacy. I will touch just real quick in just a minute on a piece about art therapy, because we did receive a grant for $7,500 that will kind of go in conjunction with the Hidden Night Center, and we will have actually a therapeutic artist, and he will be on our campus, and we're hoping to be able to make that something that we can actually offer the kids a credit course, since it's hard to get art in the building right now. Okay. And this next slide is just talking about who SSC serves, and basically the way to look at that is SSC serves whoever needs help at the time. If the students need the help and need the assistance, we are there to serve them if we can, including the students that are at the high school, and in hopes that we can take that OSS another step and actually help them to transition, or some counseling, or whatever piece that they need to take it back to the high school. These are the goals that we had for 2016, 2017, and we had a lot of different goals, and we had a lot of goals that we met, and a lot of goals that are still going to be continued. One of the things is, for me as a passion, is to increase the graduation rate for the high school and to impact the attendance rate. Those are 2 really strong goals for me, and those are something that I really think that our school will be able to help make a change in, especially seeing the numbers that we served this school year discipline-wise. New goals for 2017, 2018, and those are pretty much a couple that I just want to highlight. One is that we want to start a trauma-focused mental health type direction that we do with students, because we see a lot of anxiety and a lot of fear within all the students. We also are looking at a community coalition, and part of that's going to be led by Judge Underwood. And she has offered to kind of come in and meet with us and come together, and we're going to try to develop a matrix. And within that matrix, we're going to see where the different departments stop and where the others kind of can step in to help these students that are in need from our group homes or wherever else, that we're serving the kids from. We have a lot of students from the group homes. The increase, like I said, the increased graduation rate, course offerings and EOC scores, and then rates that we serve the middle school and high school. That's all very important goals for the upcoming year. And the last slide is a video that we're not going to see today. You can watch that when you have time. It really is about graduation and what a high school diploma does for a student. And what a high school diploma did for James this school year was he is able to look at his child, which came in May. He is able to look at that child and say one simple thing: you can't quit. I didn't. So that was really important to us this school year, and James' graduation was really important to us because we knew that he had, there was just a lot that he dealt with. So thank you. I appreciate your help, and I thank you for letting SSC be there and for letting us have that chance to take care of some lives that really need the help. Thank you.
Angie, will you stay up there for just a moment?
Mm-hmm.
I want to make a couple of comments. Angie Charles has in 1 year very much developed an opportunity that I dreamed for children who sometimes make bad decisions. And I knew that it could be something different. And when we talked to Angie about taking the position, sometimes I couldn't even verbalize what I wanted. So you have exceeded my best expectations, you and your staff. Something else that I want to mention is that when we had summer school graduation, it was one Wednesday evening in June, and one of the 5 children graduating was from the Student Success Center. And as I spoke to the group of 5, I looked out in the audience, and that one child from the Student Success Center had 4 staff members in attendance for his graduation. A Taylorsville police officer was there who has worked closely with the students in that program.
Yes.
Ann was there, Tricia was there, and Stephanie was there. And Angie Charles would have been there, but she was in Washington, D.C. with her own son. And I couldn't help but sit on the stage and think, wow, I wish the other 4 children who graduated this evening had had 4 staff members there for them. So you are building the culture that I dreamed could be there for children who, let's just face it, they don't always make good decisions, but they have many obstacles in their lives that you all are helping them to overcome. So I thank you. I thank your staff. I think that what has happened in 1 year is just incredible. And I just want to commend all of you tonight publicly. And board members, if you hear again that a new building was built for bad kids, I hope you put that comment to rest, because these are not bad kids. They are children who have made a mistake, and they deserve a second chance, and you are giving them that, and I thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hefner. It's that team. It's that team of people. Has nothing to do with me other than the fact that I'm one person that kind of tries to bring everybody together, and in the end result, they do it. They do the work. And the Taylorsville Police Department, thank you for that and for them.
Thank you.
I'll recognize now Dr. Betsy Curry for a school survey.
Good evening. I want to say good afternoon with these summer hours, because I know it's going to be a long time before it gets dark. I can't stay awake till it gets dark anymore. Chairman Britsky, members of the board, and Dr. Hefner, thank you for giving me the opportunity to share with you a survey that we have done with principals. As budgets get tighter and needs get greater, we really wanted to have some good solid input from principals to find out what positions they thought added value to their school. What were the most important positions in their school? And so we gave them an opportunity. We presented them with 15 positions, 15 different types of positions that sometimes were a little over allotted due to the size of our schools, or that perhaps could be cut. And we let them choose. We'll go to the next slide and I'll let you know what the questions were. We gave them those 15 positions and we said, what are the top 5 positions critical to student success at your school? And this was really hard for them to narrow it down to 5. If you had to cut a half-time position from your school, what would it be? If you had to cut a full-time position from your school, what would it be? And based on current teacher allotments, what would you be willing to cut for an additional teaching position? Because quite often, especially at the elementary schools right now, we're hearing with those numbers increasing in 4th and 5th grade, well, I'd like an extra teacher. But then when you think, what would you be willing to cut? Because we're about as tight as we can get. We wanted to know if there was something they would be willing to cut for that additional teaching position. Okay, if you'll go to the next slide, please, Dr. Griffin. So we separated it out by secondary schools and elementary schools because they look very, very different in our system. Some of our elementary schools do not, most of our elementary schools do not have assistant principals, and the 2 larger ones just share one. And so we asked the secondary schools, what positions do you feel are critical to student success? And at the secondary schools, 5 of the 5 principals or coordinators said assistant principals are critical. And that was very telling to us that that's a position that they value, and it might be one of the last places we would want to cut. Counselors, they all said that the counselor and the social worker, or they all said counselors, 4 out of 5, and Angie said the counselor/social worker, should she have an opportunity to have one, would be critical to their success there. And the instructional coach was a highly valued position at the 3 schools, or the 2 schools that have one, and the early college would like one, given the opportunity. So they felt that those positions were critical to student success. If you'll go on to the next slide, please. When we looked at elementary schools, we gave them the same list of 15, and 7 of 7 felt like the instructional coach was critical to student success. I think that coach has taken on some of the assistant principal roles typically, although it's not evaluating teachers, but shares some of that heavy workload of the principal, but is also supporting teachers. 6 out of 7 said do not take any more teacher assistants. We cannot lose teacher assistants in that top 5. And in the top 5, 5 out of 7 principals said counselors. We caution them to really not look at personalities as they're considering these things, and to look at not to look at the people in the position, but to look at the potential in that position. And I gave them an example of, you might have a dynamite media coordinator who's doing reading interventions and working with kids and is the chairman of your school improvement team. And somebody else might not have a person who's fulfilling all those roles. But think about the potential of that role in your school when you're thinking about this. Okay, next slide, please. The quotes that I felt like were very relevant, some of them when we asked them where they would cut, these are the comments that we got. There is not any position that is not critical. An additional teaching position is just as critical. When we asked this, this was a response to what would you cut to have an additional teaching position. Another elementary principal said, we are as lean as we can be. It's difficult for more cuts. And a third one said, I don't think I could cut another position. And then we had a middle school principal who said, I don't want to lose any principals or any positions. So that's the content of what we got. We did get some ideas, but it's really hard to put up there what people would cut because they don't really want to cut anything. And I think if we were to say that one group, 5 out of 7 principals said they would cut this, that's not their desire. And I think it could be potentially hurtful. So we're not sharing that information, but because bottom line is nobody can see any positions that we can really cut. We're about as bare as we can be. So do you have any questions?
I think that it speaks volumes how well our schools perform test-wise and performance-wise based on the level of funding that we receive. Mm-hmm. We're still in the bottom 10%
of funding.
Mm-hmm. But that's hats off to the employees throughout the system that in essence, they make a lot out of little.
They do.
And I don't know if we can convey that message well enough. I guess we could have a correlation between if our school system was a NASCAR team, we'd be a one-car operation. If you base it on funding, you know, if we made the field, we would be happy. But our test results have shown that in many areas we're near the top of the state. The state, all 100 counties. But if you said, great, Alexander County Schools, you're near the top in performance. But when it comes to sponsorship, you know, you're a one-car team. So, but
and I think that's what the public doesn't see, because I've been in schools over the last couple of weeks working with principals on their comprehensive needs assessments and talking with them, and I always see teachers there. And people say they don't work 12 months. Well, I beg to differ. And one school that did not do as well as they would have liked to have done, they're having a lunch and learn. They're all on board. They're all excited to try new things. And the energy level there and the passion there is phenomenal, because it would be so easy to give up in light of what we all have been dealing with, both nationally, federally, and statewide. But they continue 95% of them continue to dig in and do it for the love of children. And that is one of the many, many reasons that I just am so happy to be back in Alexander County, because you will not get a staff of this quality in any other system. And I've had the good fortune, although sometimes it seemed like a misfortune, to leave for 3 years and visit in schools all around the state. And you cannot match this commitment for very, very little these days in return and added work. So I appreciate your recognizing that, David. And I'm thrilled with our results as well, considering where morale could be. It's a real testimony to this county and the school system that teachers continue to dig in.
And in that same vein, the best part of this job as a school board member, some not so good parts, but the best part is going around and visiting the schools and seeing. I just wish everybody in this county could see what we see when we visit schools and see the wonderful work that goes on in those schools.
And we're trying to do a better job of telling that story. You'll notice that we've done a lot of Facebook posts highlighting instructional practices. We've got to get that out there so that people see. And so we're making a joint effort here at the central office to help promote our schools, and they're doing a better job. And we want them to see what we're doing. We're not hiding anything, because they are busting their tail everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll recognize Dr. Hefner for the superintendent's report.
Board members, you do have this attachment in your agenda as well. But I just want to start by providing you an update with some of our summer maintenance projects. Dale Robertson and I met yesterday, and I'm happy to say that the LED lighting projects have been completed at Stony Point, East Alexander Middle School, Bethlehem, and Hidnight. And I've learned a lot in this process. I've learned that there's a difference in a T12 bulb and a T8 bulb and all kinds of bulbs. Thank you, Dale. But Duke Energy only offered the rebate with the T12 bulbs. So that's what has been changed out in those 4 schools, and we look forward to the cost savings due to that. The painting project at Stony Point has also been completed. Repairs to the Sugarloaf Gym will begin on July 20th, and that's with the anchors being put into the foundation and getting things evened up with that building. And the floor covering project should be completed by the students' return on August 28th. So we're really happy about that as well. 5 HVAC units are scheduled to be replaced at East beginning this coming Monday. Tile work in the office area of the high school is also scheduled to start on Monday. 4 classrooms, the carpet has been removed and tiles are being placed in 4 classrooms at Bethlehem, and that's going on right now. Painting is being done in a variety of areas at the high school. The roof on the cafeteria at the old Head Start facility is going to be replaced this summer. All septic tanks have been pumped, and grease traps will be cleaned next week. And when Dale talks to me about septic tanks and grease traps, I don't really want to know any more about that. So it does not sound like a fun job, but it is one that has to be done every summer. And then this morning, he and I talked the tennis courts. We're going to do a patch job on those again this summer, and that will start in the near future. And then those are just really a few of the things that our maintenance director and his employees that they work on and get scheduled and do. They do a lot to make sure that the buildings are in tip-top shape when the children return in late August. And I say thank you to Dale Robertson and his group. Thank you. The second thing I wanted to mention, I need you to mark your calendars, because as of this morning, we have scheduled a work session with Dr. Garrett Henshaw. That has been scheduled for Thursday, July 20th, beginning at 4:30 in this room. And again, I would love to have all board members present for that work session with Dr. Henshaw.
You say what time that was?
Is it 4:30?
I'm sorry.
Yes. Work days for 10-month non-certified employees will be August 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th, and June 11th. Principals agreed upon these dates at our last meeting together, and these employees, if you remember, will work 5 of the 14 work days scheduled on the calendar this year.
Do you know what day opening session is?
Yes, I'm sorry, I should have listed that.
That's okay.
Opening session will be on Tuesday, August 22nd, beginning at 8:30 at the auditorium.
Thank you.
Okay, the fourth bullet, all school and central office leaders will be attending our annual leadership retreat on July 31st and August 1st. Plans and facilitators for this retreat are being finalized this week. New teacher orientation is scheduled for Monday, August 14th, beginning at 8 o'clock. Please note this change in location. This year it's being held at Ellendale Elementary. All board members are invited, but a special request is made to the board chair to offer a warm welcome to this group. If you could put that date on your calendars, that would be wonderful. Again, the location is Ellendale Elementary. I'm going to share with you a list of dates for the 17-18 school year. I need you to pay special attention to the Board of Education meeting dates. You will see on Monday, November 6th, that has been changed. It has a red asterisk by it, and the reason being, the normal meeting would have fallen the next week, but that's the North Carolina School Board Association State Conference in Greensboro. So when we back that up 1 week to the 7th, that will be election day, so we've gone with Monday, November 6th. Unless you see a better time to schedule that November meeting, please note that change. The only other thing that I would ask, this year, you all asked me to schedule the Board of Education meeting for June a week earlier, so we could have it before the high school graduation. The 12th would not be before the high school graduation. So if you want me to back that up 1 week earlier, that would be on June 5th. So these dates have not been published yet. I wanted your input tonight in what you think about that.
I personally like it before graduation if it works for everybody's schedule.
Is that a consensus? Are you okay? Okay, we'll change that to June 5th. It looks funny looking down there at that 2018 date, doesn't it? The other thing that I would ask some input in is, how do you all feel about recognizing retirees on a different night than the board meeting? I'm thinking either late May, early June. You know that group's large typically, and we have to have a bigger room than this one for the reception and the recognition. That's why we move it to the high school cafeteria and auditorium. But I'll just be honest with you, after 3 years, it's difficult to move a board meeting over there because invariably I'll get over there without a folder or something that I need that's in this office. So would you all have any issue with us doing that at the same location, but just on a different evening from the board meeting?
I think that would be fun.
Yeah.
That'd be better.
Okay, wonderful.
Makes it a little more special for
Yeah.
you.
Well,
I think.
Well,
And when we get really creative, maybe we'll even think about doing something different. Maybe we could do a picnic for their families. I don't know. We're not there yet, but I did want to mention about just separating the two.
I
Okay.
think that's good. And that way too, we can also make sure that the practice that we've started of videoing the meetings will be able to
Continue.
to
that.
continue.
Yes.
One question,
Yes.
could you consider June the 4th instead of June the 5th? That way it won't conflict with the town council, town board meeting.
Okay. Make it Monday, June 4th. I'm fine with that. Board members, how do you feel about that?
Yeah.
Okay. So Monday, June 4th, here at the Board of Education. All right.
Okay.
The next thing I want to give you is a copy of the 17-18 calendar. You probably already have multiple copies of it. but I wanted you to have it. I've had to use it a lot this week in getting things scheduled. And then the last thing that I'm going to give you, Kim Brown has asked that I extend this invitation to all of you. The 58th Annual State Convention for the Student Council is being held at our high school. In March, it will be March 16th, 17th, and 18th, 2018. And she has asked if you all would be there, at least maybe for the opening session part that Friday. So calendars fill up quickly. Deborah and I laughed this afternoon when we looked at the board calendar already to use this room. It's incredible how many events are already on each month's schedule for this particular room. So we would be honored to have you because it's certainly an honor to host that state convention. Any questions or comments?
Busy time, even during the summer.
It is. Thank you all.
Thank you. All right, we're gonna move on to unfinished business, and I'd recognize Ms. Mahaffey for the second reading of proposed policy, Board of Education policy revisions.
Tonight, for second reading, we have one policy in the 6,000 series and 6 policies in the 9,000 series. These were shared with principals and directors, and I have received no questions. So
I haven't received any, and I reached out to the board yesterday to see if there were any questions. I know that some board members were not going to be present tonight, so I don't think that there were any questions. Do I have a motion to approve those on the second reading?
Motion approved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor of approval as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously.
we don't have any policies for first reading. We're going to rest for a couple months.
Yeah, we could. There's a lot to read. And if you'll stay there, we'll move to new business. And I guess it's a request to change the bank depository for Taylorsville Elementary.
Yes, Taylorsville Elementary is requesting to change their bank from First Citizens to Taylorsville Savings Bank. This will save them on some fees when their balance drops below $10,000.
Do I have a motion to approve that transfer?
Move to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of approval of that transfer, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I would recognize Dr. Bill Griffin for first reading of policy 7440.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Hefner, I have a recommendation here to change some of the language of board policy 7440. If you would follow along with me, I believe you have a copy there of the highlighted parts of that, and that is the new language that I would like to recommend for a change. The reason for this change is basically we've had some transfers this year, and I would like for this policy to reflect a fair and consistent manner in which we do those transfers and make sure that it's up front for those teachers or employees that they understand that policy and again, that it's fair and consistent for all. The language that I'm recommending is again highlighted. It says voluntary or lateral transfers will only be considered for each employee every 3 years unless otherwise authorized by the superintendent. And basically making sure that once a person puts in for a transfer, they understand that they're not going to move every year. That creates a hardship for those schools, and we want them to be happy. We also want things to be consistent for our schools. The other new language that you see there following that is that if reassignment or transfer exists from a necessary reduction in force in these schools, the employee to be reassigned or transferred shall be the last hired unless the following criteria exist. And that being And voluntary transfer of the employee has occurred within the past 3 years. We don't want a person to always be that last hired and be transferred if that situation exists. The next criteria will be the employee is rated developing in any observable area or has any disciplinary or performance issues documented during the school year. So make sure that if a person is being transferred out of that school, that they're in good standing. We want to make sure that each employee that goes to another school is well represented and serves that school well. And then the following piece there, the last piece is the present assignment of the employee requires special expertise or skills essential to that school's well-being. Just in case there's a last hire was hired for a specific reason for that school, we wouldn't want them transferred out. Then the last clause there, our change is that the Human Resources Director will attempt to first fill any vacancies with voluntary transfers. We want to respect those transfers. Some people have had a transfer for a long period of time that have been in, and make sure that we kind of look at those first. If a reduction in force is necessary, the Human Resources Director will attempt to place the person that is being involuntarily transferred into a school of their interest if that vacancy exists. If no vacancy within the school system exists, the procedure for reduction in force for certified employees would apply. I want to make sure that if a person is transferred, that they have some say as to where they're going if there's a vacancy related to that transfer. Hopefully that language clarifies some of our transfers and helps with some of those situations that are necessary at times. So I would recommend you guys looking at those changes. Any questions?
Is there any need to, this is a first reading of this? Is that something that needs to
I know we don't have it. There are several board members aren't present this evening, right. So it might be necessary that we
bring it back in
yes,
August.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we will do that. All right. Is there anything else? I covered everything. I will entertain a motion from the board to go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143, 318, 11A6.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Go into closed session. I don't know if it's a record, but we did pretty good.